It started with a silence that didn't belong to the forest. No wind, no rustling leaves, no bird songs, just a heavy stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Somewhere in the heart of the wilderness, a man found himself stranded, the weight of a fallen tree pinning his leg to the damp earth. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be utterly powerless in nature where every sound could be your last warning? And what if, in that same moment, the one creature you feared most became your only hope? The truth, the forest floor was cold and unforgiving, the scent of wet bark filling the air. His hands, scraped and shaking, clawed at the dirt, trying to free himself. Every attempt sent a jolt of pain up his body, each breath sharper than the last. Somewhere beyond the trees, a faint howl rose, carried by the wind. It was followed by another, closer this time. The sound sent a chill down his spine, not just from fear, but from the certainty that he was no longer alone. Shadows began to shift between the trunks, fleeting shapes moving in silence. The man's heartbeat quickened, each thud loud enough, he feared, to give away his position. The first wolf appeared, its yellow eyes locking onto him. It didn't rush. It simply stared, measuring the moment as though it knew the man couldn't escape. Then came another, and another, until the darkness seemed to breathe around him. They circled slowly, each step deliberate, tightening the space between predator and prey. And just as the circle began to close, a deep, resonant growl shattered the air, a sound that made even the wolves hesitate. The growl came from behind the wolves, deep and commanding, shaking the air like distant thunder. The pack froze, eyes shifting toward the shadow that now moved between the trees. The man's breath caught, unsure if this new presence was a savior or a greater threat. His name was Daniel, a wildlife photographer who had ventured too far from his camp, chasing the perfect shot. Hours earlier, he had climbed a ridge, unaware that a storm had weakened the roots of a massive pine standing at the edge. When the wind shifted, the tree groaned before giving way. Daniel had no time to react. The trunk crashed down, its weight smashing into his right leg. Pain ripped through him, sharp and blinding, forcing him to bite down on his own cry. He tried to push the trunk off, but it wouldn't budge. The damp earth sucked at him, and his leg felt crushed beyond repair. The cold bit into his skin, his clothes soaked from the wet moss and melting snow beneath him. Hours passed with no sign of help. Daniel's camera lay just out of reach, lens cracked from the fall. His backpack, his food, his water, all scattered in the undergrowth. The only sound had been his own labored breathing until the wolves came. Now their low growls blended with the wind, circling closer. Their paws made no sound on the forest floor, but he could feel their presence like static in the air. He knew they were patient hunters, willing to wait until he was too weak to fight. The leader of the pack stepped forward, fur bristling, head low. Its gaze was fixed on Daniel's face as if reading his fear. The air between them was thick, charged, ready to explode into violence at any second. From the shadows, the figure of the massive bear emerged fully, muscles shifting under its thick fur, its eyes fixed not on Daniel, but on the wolves. The wolves didn't scatter at the sight of the bear. Instead, their bodies shifted, muscles tense, eyes darting between Daniel and the towering beast. The air grew heavier, each second stretching as the predators measured the threat before them. The leader's ears twitched, but its stance held firm, signaling the others to remain in their slow, deliberate circle. Daniel's heart pounded so violently he thought it might burst. He could barely move, but his eyes tracked every shadow, every glint of fur between the trees. The bear took a few steps forward, its claws sinking into the soft ground, a low rumble building deep in its chest, warning the wolves without a single strike. The wolves began to fan out, trying to close the space around both Daniel and the bear. Their bodies moved like liquid, silent and precise, the kind of patience only born from countless hunts. Daniel felt the cold sweat on his forehead, his body trembling, both from the pain in his leg and the growing realization of what was about to happen. The bear swung its massive head, tracking the wolves with sharp, deliberate movements. Its nostrils flared, catching the scent of each one, as if deciding who would make the first mistake. The forest seemed to hold its breath again, even the wind slowing, leaves barely trembling. The leader wolf advanced 2 steps, teeth bared in a silent snarl, its golden eyes locked on Daniel. One wrong move from the bear, and the pack would strike with a speed that Daniel couldn't even scream against. His fingers dug into the dirt, searching for anything he could use to defend himself. A younger wolf crept from the left, crouched low, ready to spring. The bear shifted its weight and released a growl so deep that Daniel felt it in his bones. The younger wolf froze mid-step, but the others didn't retreat. The pack tightened the circle, forcing the bear to angle its body between Daniel and the approaching jaws. Each movement was calculated, and Daniel realized the bear wasn't just watching, it was guarding him. The thought was so absurd that his mind struggled to process it. A sudden snap of a twig nearby broke the standoff for a heartbeat, every head turning toward the sound. It was a moment Daniel knew could mean life or death. The bear stepped fully into the clearing, its massive frame blotting out part of the gray sky above. Sunlight caught in its thick brown fur, highlighting the scars along its shoulder, signs of past battles. Its head lowered slightly, eyes locked on the wolves, lips curling just enough to reveal teeth built for tearing through flesh and bone. Daniel felt the ground vibrate with each heavy step. The bear's sheer presence shifted the air, making the wolves hesitate, their tails twitching with uncertainty. It moved with slow, deliberate strides, positioning itself squarely between Daniel and the tightening circle of predators, as if drawing an invisible line they would have to cross. A wolf to the right tested the boundary, creeping forward with its ears pinned back. The bear snapped its head toward it, unleashing a guttural roar that seemed to shake the very trees. The wolf flinched, backing away, but the pack didn't scatter. They were calculating, waiting for a single opening. Daniel's breathing grew shallow as attention pressed down on him. The bear's gaze shifted constantly, reading every twitch of muscle from its opponents. Its claws flexed into the dirt, and Daniel could see the steam of its breath in the cold air, rhythmic and steady, like a living shield. The leader wolf advanced again, this time with more confidence. It moved in a low stalk, its body weaving side to side, searching for a weakness. The bear responded with a forward lunge, stopping just short of contact, snapping its jaws loud enough to echo through the clearing. The wolves tightened formation, circling faster now, trying to pull the bear's focus away from one side. Daniel saw 2 of them slipping behind, angling toward him. His pulse roared in his ears, and his fingers clenched uselessly in the dirt. The bear didn't miss the maneuver. With a powerful pivot, it swiped one massive paw across the ground, sending a spray of soil and leaves toward the advancing wolves. The display of force halted their approach, but their eyes still burned with hunger. For a brief moment, Daniel locked eyes with the bear. There was no malice there, only an intense, almost calculated awareness, as if it understood the danger he was in and had chosen a side. The tension snapped like a brittle branch as the wolves lunged together, teeth bared and paws striking the frozen ground. The bear didn't hesitate. With a force that made the earth tremble beneath Daniel, it charged, roaring, a moving wall of muscle and fury. The pack scattered instantly, howls of surprise and fear tearing through the forest air. Daniel's heart pounded so violently he thought it might stop entirely. He twisted, trying to shift his trapped leg, but the weight of the fallen tree held him firm. The bear's presence remained a shield, its massive body positioned between him and the fleeing predators. A single wolf lingered, stubborn and reckless, its eyes fixed on Daniel. The bear turned its head slowly, locking eyes with the wolf. In a display of raw power, it let out a guttural growl that vibrated through Daniel's chest, and the wolf finally retreated, disappearing into the shadows. The forest seemed to exhale, the oppressive tension lifting. The storm that had weakened the pine tree earlier started to break, faint sunlight slipping through the gray clouds, glinting on the bear's wet fur. Daniel's breath came in ragged gasps, his body trembling from pain and adrenaline. The bear took a step closer to Daniel, massive paw scraping the ground. Its eyes scanned him, nostrils flaring as if confirming he was unharmed beyond the pinned leg. There was an almost uncanny intelligence in the gaze, a silent acknowledgment of the life it had protected. Daniel whispered a shaky, "Thank you," unsure if the bear understood words, but certain of the gratitude flowing from his chest. The bear's ears twitched, and it gave a low rumble, shifting its weight as if nodding before turning to retreat into the thick forest. The wolves were gone, the only sound the distant trickle of a creek and the wind rustling the trees. Daniel stayed frozen for a moment, staring after the bear, processing what had just occurred. The reality of the wilderness, its danger, its unexpected mercy, pressed into him with weight. Finally, Daniel worked his hands under the fallen tree, inch by excruciating inch, freeing his leg. Every movement a sharp reminder of the risk he had survived. When he stood shakily, he glanced once more at the spot where the bear had disappeared, understanding that some acts of courage in nature were beyond human comprehension. As Daniel finally took a deep breath, watching the bear disappear into the forest, he realized there were countless more stories waiting in the wild. If you want to witness more incredible moments like this, make sure to subscribe and join us on every adventure.